The Chicago Cubs have a new manager this season and a new outlook on finally ending a century of losing.
Tonight, Phoenix police are looking into what appears to be a bogus medical marijuana dispensary.
Governor Doug Ducey has made some bold promises to improve education in Arizona, but a growing number of school districts aren't buying it. Today, President Obama proposed tougher rules on financial brokers who may be motivated by collecting fees instead of the best interests of those saving for retirement.
Another exciting day of basketball as March Madness continues. The first #1 seed has been eliminated, but the Arizona Wildcats, they're moving on.
Victoria Mendez was released from the hospital earlier this evening. She told me she was driving home from work last night when she saw her son standing on the corner of her street here. So she stopped her car, and what happened next is heartbreaking.
I rolled my passenger window down and I said, "Hey, Hakeem, what's up? How are you doing?" And he popped his head in my window and he says, "I just want to give you a kiss, Mama."
As Victoria Mendez leaned toward her 29-year-old son, Hakeem Shockey, who she hadn't seen in months because of his drug addiction, she says he pulled out a box cutter.
And then he proceeded to get into the car and started stabbing me and slashing at my throat, telling me that he was going to kill me. And then he grabbed within the wound itself that he had created with his bare hands, and he started pulling at my esophagus.
As Mendez fought for her life and screamed for help, she says a neighbor came to her rescue.
And he said, "Stop, I'm going to shoot." He wouldn't stop. He shot him once. It didn't even faze him. He was so high on drugs. And the second shot I heard, he went down.
Mendez is now beginning a painful recovery and mourning the loss of a son she feels she truly lost to crystal meth, not to the man who pulled the trigger.
There was nothing else you could have done. And as sad as I am to lose my boy, you did the right thing. And I thank you for my life.
In Glendale, Rebecca Thomas, CBS 5 News.
My son is very gentle, and he's very loving, and he's a good boy. But that thing wasn't him. Even the look in his eye, it was like there was someone else within him. It wasn't him.
But that person was Victoria Mendez's 29-year-old son, likely in a meth-fueled rage, as he slashed and stabbed at her throat until a neighbor came to her rescue and shot him to death Sunday night.
Crystal meth is stealing our kids and turning them into murderers.
Mendez says her son, Hakeem Shockey, struggled with a meth addiction for at least 15 years. According to court records, that same drug had a 20-year grip on Ryan Giroux. The 41-year-old is accused of a shooting spree in Mesa last week. Police say Giroux did not have drugs on him at the time of his arrest, but they're still waiting to find out if he was high.
We've always explained that the symptoms are you are aggressive, you are violent, you can be. It's different in every case.
Stephanie Siete works for Community Bridges, a nonprofit aimed at drug prevention and treatment. She says meth still has a strong hold on Arizona.
It's a really cheaply processed drug. So it's always going to be a problem. It's always going to be available.
And it will always be dangerous. Siete says the addictive, mind-altering drug can cause hallucinations, delusions, and permanent damage.
They're destroying the brain, the physical appearance, everything. That's meth.
Mendez wants other parents to know as long as their kids are using meth, they're in danger too.
Once a delusion takes hold, they could very, very possibly hurt you, and you become the victim.
If you or someone you know needs help fighting an addiction to meth, there are many resources here in Arizona. We have put several links on our website. Just visit cbs5az.com. Those who saw the massive brawl at a High Country Walmart say it was utter chaos. A gun battle broke out between police and a group of people accused of assaulting an employee. One officer ended up getting shot, and someone else involved in the fight was killed. CBS 5's Allison Blair has the latest on the investigation. Police say the 31-year-old officer who was shot has been on the force for 10 years. He is expected to make a full recovery. And we're tracking your tomorrow tonight. That's when Governor Ducey could finally call on the state to ditch Common Core standards. Ducey is expected to lay out details of his education agenda while speaking to the State Board of Education. The governor has said in the past he believes Arizona should have its own standards rather than ones based on national standards. Also tomorrow, Senator Ted Cruz will formally announce his presidential bid during a speech at Liberty University in Virginia. Just moments ago, he posted on Twitter, "I'm running for president and I hope to earn your support." Cruz is the first candidate to throw his hat into the ring for what's expected to be a crowded field for the GOP nomination. Fast forward to Wednesday, that's when Wisconsin governor and likely presidential candidate Scott Walker will be in the Valley. He is scheduled to speak at a luncheon hosted by the Arizona Chamber of Commerce. Organizers say the luncheon is part of a leadership series that will feature politicians considering a presidential run. It's been more than 4 months since the White House nominated Loretta Lynch to take over as Attorney General, but she has yet to be confirmed. Senator John McCain says he has no interest in appointing Lynch to the nation's top law enforcement office.
I will not vote for her.
We're hearing from the families whose dogs died in a Gilbert boarding facility this summer.
It is the first time they're speaking out after animal cruelty charges against the facility's owners were dismissed. The county attorney made the announcement yesterday. Bill Montgomery says the case presented to a grand jury left out possible issues with an air conditioning unit. CBS 5's Laura Malpert joins us live from Scottsdale, where the dogs' families gathered today. About face, but Sony Pictures says it will release the interview on Christmas after all. President Obama is applauding Sony Pictures for its decision to release the interview. White House officials stressed the U.S. believes in free speech and the right of artistic expression. Meantime, there's speculation the United States might have something to do with an internet blackout in North Korea. There was a 9-hour outage in that country yesterday. The blackout happened just days after the FBI blamed North Korea for the hack on Sony. U.S. officials haven't commented on the outage and remain cryptic about plans to avenge the attack on Sony. Sony itself isn't exactly off the hook. Members of Congress are demanding answers from the company. Lawmakers are asking Sony for information on the data breaches and details of investigations regarding the hacks. They say the number and sophistication of cyber attacks pose a danger to our national security. New Year's Eve is still more than a week away, but investors already have a reason to celebrate. The Dow closed above 18,000 for the first time ever today. The S&P 500 also finished at an all-time high. A report showing the U.S. economy grew at a 5% annual rate last quarter, the fastest pace since 2003, helped the market jump. During one of the busiest travel weeks of the year, Southwest Airlines and its baggage handlers are clashing over benefits. Jessica Ford says she found black mold in her apartment here at Laguna Village. And what's more, she says management is doing nothing about it.
I woke up in the morning and my ceiling was gaping open.
Jessica Ford says during Monday's storm, water began gushing into her apartment. She immediately called management, which sent over an industrial fan.
They plugged it into this outlet while my wall was still damp.
You can see obvious water damage to her daughter's room, with water pockets bulging from the ceiling. Wednesday, a maintenance crew cut it open. What Ford saw shocked her.
Mold, tons of black mold.
Again, she called management to report the problem and got this response from Laguna Village's corporate office Thursday.
That drywall has a colored backing on the back of it, and that is what the discolored spots are. It's actually not mold, and there's no mold that's been seen.
Not convinced, Ford took a sample and gave it to a friend who is a biology professor. He looked at it under a microscope. The verdict, a black mold known to cause respiratory problems, especially in people who have asthma like her 6-year-old daughter.
I let them know that me and my daughter were feeling sick and that she was saying her lungs were hurting and she was dizzy. Nothing they could do. They wouldn't do anything.
There's a possibility of mold in her apartment, so what's being done to protect her?
He just told me to have you call him. Thank you.
The manager told us to call their attorney, which we did with no response. Meantime, Ford says her ceiling has been patched up without the removal of insulation, treatment of the beams, or testing for mold.
The mold isn't just from Monday, so obviously we've been breathing in the spores now for however, I don't even know how long, but it's terrifying.
Now, Ford and her daughter are now staying with a friend because she is very scared about breathing in that mold. We are also going to be taking some of that sheetrock and have it tested at a local lab. Well, we sent that sheetrock sample provided to us by Jessica Ford to an indoor air quality certified lab, and sure enough, they found black mold.
I'm feeling even more scared than I was before to know that that is confirmed, and that's what it was that we have been inhaling for a couple months.
Jessica Ford found a black substance on ceiling sheetrock after the roof leaked at Laguna Village Apartments. We sent it off to Southeast Environmental Microbiology Laboratories, where it tested positive for Stachybotrys, or black mold, which can produce toxic spores, a far cry from what management told Ford last week.
That drywall has a colored backing on the back of it, and that is what the discolored spots are. It's actually not mold, and there's no mold that's been seen.
After sending the report to PB Bell, the company that owns the complex, we asked why Ford was told it wasn't mold. Through email, we were told the response was based on a preliminary conversation prior to any investigation or professional testing. Yet that comment was made after the ceiling was patched up.
It's a complete joke. It's negligence.
Management did send in someone to test the air quality in Ford's apartment Monday, but according to Adam Carity, owner of Arizona's Restoration Experts, which is not working with PB Bell, that's not enough.
This is all wet.
Carity used sensors and thermal imaging to detect moisture content in Ford's walls and ceilings, which registered levels as high as 100%.
Anything above 20% moisture content can harbor growth or can create an environment where mold can grow. Professional remediation needs to happen at this point.
Meaning ceiling and walls need to go, and other residents who've had leaky ceilings should be concerned.
If things weren't taken care of correctly in this particular unit, just logical thinking tells you there's probably some stuff going on somewhere else.
Today, management finally agreed to move Ford and her 6-year-old daughter to another unit or let her out of her lease immediately. Reporting live in Chandler, Rebecca Thomas, CBS 5 News.